No matter how hard you try and avoid being caught up in the transfer whirlwind, all it takes is a Fabrizio Romano tweet to get me running back to the microphone. You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner podcast. We are live. Hey, everybody, how we doing? Happy Thursday evening. Yes, we don't normally stream at these ungodly hours, but a Fabrizio Romano tweet, post, X post, whatever you're supposed to call those things these days, has got me running back to the microphone to bring you an impromptu edition of the show. We are going to discuss what exactly he has reported. We're going to talk Benjamin Sesko some more because he is, of course, the subject of this report, the subject of this post. And I want to gauge your thoughts and I want to get your views from the live chat as well. Now, I've delayed my kids' bedtime for this. I've told them that they can stay up an extra half an hour so that I can do this stream. So let's make it a good one. Make sure you like the video. If you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you're brand spanking new and if you're listening on Spotify, Apple, or anything like that, please do leave us a review as well. All of that amazing stuff really, really does help. So what, I hear you ask, has Fabrizio Romano reported? So he says, understand Arsenal have started moving initial, look, English isn't his first language. This doesn't make complete sense in terms of the way he's posted it. But this is what he says. Understand Arsenal have started moving initial concrete talks for Benjamin Sesko deal. So what he's saying is that Arsenal have begun concrete talks over a potential deal to bring Benjamin Sesko to the club. He says he's always been high on the recruitment team's list, management, and Mikel Arteta's list. And there were attempts to get the deal done rejected by RB Leipzig in May 2024. So we tried to do it going into last summer and in January. Now Sesko will leave and Arsenal are on it. Now, to be fair, Florian Plettenberg has been reporting something quite similar for a little while now. And, you know, we, myself included, did wonder how credible that source was. We did discuss it, of course, but we did talk about the need to just be a little bit cautious with some of these stories. And when we were talking about it at that time and at that point, I remember so many people saying, I won't believe it until I've got a Fabrizio Romano post or a David Ornstein post. Well, you've got one of those. Fabrizio Romano believes and reports that Arsenal have opened these concrete talks. And that's a phrase that you hear a lot nowadays, isn't it? In kind of transfer language. Concrete means that the talks are serious. It means that the talks are with the intention of getting the deal done. It suggests that the talks are a little bit more than just kind of preliminary feeling out the situation kind of talks. It feels like Arsenal are really seriously interested in this player. And obviously, Fabrizio Romano mentions the fact and makes the point that Arsenal did attempt to do deals for Benjamin Sesko back in May, and they tried to do it May 2024, that is, and they also tried to do it in January. Now, I remember I don't think it was yesterday's pod, maybe the day before, I remember saying something along the lines of, look, you open talks with a club, you get rebuffed. And if that is a player that you think you're going to continuously be interested in, that you're continuously going to follow, and that interest is going to go on and on and on until essentially you get your man, then you have to be respectful in the way that you do these things. And you have to be respectful in the way that you liaise with the selling club. And I remember people sort of laughing at me when I said, look, if we tried in January and we were basically rebuffed, we had to kind of back off and we had to kind of just wait until the timing was right before we could go back in and be serious with this and do it, hopefully, with RB Leipzig willing to play ball. Now, Fabrizio Romano doesn't provide at this time any further information with regards to what RB Leipzig's intentions are, what price it's going to take. We were talking about it this morning, weren't we? There were reports to the effect of Arsenal are going to have to pay £93 million to get Benjamin Sesko in through the door. And I don't know, look, I think for me, that £93 million was probably factoring in a whole load of things. And I mean, first of all, the the fee. Second of all, the signing on fee that you might pay to the player, some agent fees, I'd imagine. And then it was probably taking into consideration the salary of the player across the length of that initial contract that he signed. So a lot of people were scared off by that figure, and myself included. I was looking at that number and going, that is crazy. That is wild. We're not going to pay anywhere near that. And we shouldn't pay anywhere near that. But actually, I think you probably do end up paying something like that if you factor all of those things in that I've just mentioned. So when you break it down, it's not that crazy. But I've, for a while now, believed that, yes, Benjamin Sesko is a player with a lot of talent. And yes, he is someone that we know Arsenal have a historic interest in, that Arsenal have liked and admired for a while. But I've said for a bit now that I just feel like Viktor Gyökeres is that little bit more ripe, in that I believe that he is better equipped to come in and aid Arsenal in achieving their goals in the here and now. Whereas, yeah, Benjamin Sesko's got this incredible ceiling and he's got the sort of the room for growth. There's no question about that. But is he ready to do it for us now? Is he ready to do it for us tomorrow? Because I don't want to be waiting for the next day and the next day and the next day. So that's my reservation about Benjamin Sesko. It always has been. But I do kind of take encouragement from the fact that, if Arsenal tried to do this back in May of last year and then again in January, they must really, really believe that this is the guy. Because even when other market opportunities have presented themselves, i.e. Viktor Gyökeres' price dropping down from like 100 million euros to 60 million euros, even with those things kind of changing and adapting, Arsenal's vision appears clear when it comes to what they want and who they want at centre forward. And we've been going back and forward on this quite a bit recently. Sesko, Gyökeres, who's the priority? We haven't had reports of talks with Viktor Gyökeres or with Sporting from a source as concrete, there you go, I've used that word again, as Fabrizio Romano yet. So based on this news, you can choose to go down two roads of thought. Either you're clear now that Benjamin Sesko is the one. He is the one that Mikel Arteta wants. He is the one that Arsenal are pursuing. He's the one that Arsenal plan to get. Or you can look at it through a slightly different lens and say, well, this doesn't close the door necessarily on Viktor Gyökeres, but it does mean that Arsenal are seriously considering Benjamin Sesko at least, and enough to want to open those kind of dialogues and find out maybe what that's going to cost and how that's going to work. Now, Tom Canton, I think, reported yesterday that there were going to be talks taking place internally about some of the targets that, they're looking at. And those talks, I think he reported, and forgive me if I've got this wrong, because I'm just doing this from memory. I think he reported that those talks were going to happen next week. I think it could be that those talks are taking place over players for other positions. I think the centre forward role is one that we've needed to recruit in for a long, long time. I'd be shocked and astounded if there weren't conversations already ongoing going into the summer. I think there should be clarity, and I think there should be some sort of alignment among those at the top of our football club with regards to who it is they want to go out and get. And it feels like this is the first move that they're making, Benjamin Sesko. And when I say first move, we've heard all the Zubimendi stuff. Although, just touching on that very quickly, there was a report come out of Spain a little bit earlier on today where somebody involved with Real Sociedad, and again, I can't remember who it was exactly, but they'd said something along the lines of, he hasn't made his mind up yet. And I'm like, all right, mate, pull the other one. But going back to this situation and going back to Benjamin Sesko, I think the thing that's really, really important is really, really important, because I'm seeing this crop up in the chat a lot. Rumble says 90 million quid is wild. Errol Graham says 93 million pounds for him. No, no, no. Let me be clear. We don't know anything about prices. We don't know anything about where these talks might lead to, if they haven't led somewhere already and we're just a little bit behind the curve. What I would say to Arsenal supporters is don't obsess over the figure yet, because the truth is we don't know what that figure looks like. As I've already explained, the 93 million pounds figure, that had to include the fee for the player, the player's salary over however long the contract is, maybe 5 years, Okay. That had to include agency fees, signing on fees, what we're paying to RB Leipzig, all of that stuff. I really do believe that was the case. I don't think for a second that Arsenal are going to pay 90 odd million pounds for Benjamin Sesko. No way. I mean, there was talk that his release clause is about 80 million euros. What's 80 million euros in pounds? 80 million euros in pounds comes to 67.5 million based on today's conversion rate. Brought to you by Google. 67.5 million pounds. So how have we gone from a release clause that we could just pay and get the deal done, 67.5 million pounds, to being in a place where we're going to pay 93 million pounds? No, as I've explained, that figure is clearly taking into consideration a number of different things that don't normally get bundled in when it comes to the cost of a player, but things that people want to bundle in and throw in to make a bigger number, to make a bigger story, to attract a lot more attention. He's not going to cost us 93 million pounds by way of a transfer fee. Come on, guys. Like, when I talk about the transfer windows and I talk about, we touched on it a couple of days ago. It's nice to sort of buy into the stories. It's nice to buy into the rumors. It's nice to get on board with it. It's nice to, visualize. It's nice to kind of, think about what could be if X player was to join your team and all the rest of it. But you've also got to keep your wits about you a little bit. And this idea that he's going to cost 93 million pounds in terms of a transfer fee, mad. Let's stop peddling that narrative, because I promise you that is not going to be the case. I'm interested to get your thoughts, because I know that the chat box on here and sort of just from looking at some of the other channels and some of what their audience are having to say, I know that there is a bit of a divide. There's a lot of people that feel like Sesko's the one. There's a lot of people that feel like Viktor Gyökeres is the one. As I say, to put my cards fully on the table here, I slightly lean towards Viktor Gyökeres at the moment because of that kind of readiness that I think he has that maybe Benjamin Sesko doesn't, to help us and aid us straight away. But I did say that I won't be upset if we sign either one of them, because I think they're both obviously very, very good centre forwards, and I think both improve our squad. Let me get your thoughts. Let me get your takes from the live chat on this. I'd love to hear from you. Do you know what? If anybody wants to join as well, I haven't got a long time tonight because, as I mentioned, I do have to put the kids to bed annoyingly. I might text my wife and see if she can do it. But yeah, I'd love to hear from you. If you're interested in joining me on the Chronicles of Aguna live right now, make sure you got your camera plugged in. Make sure you're dressed based on an experience we had the other day. and yeah, make sure you're somewhere quiet. And I'd love to hear from you guys. If you are interested, let's get some reaction. Let's get some thoughts. I've just pinned the link to join in the live chat box here on YouTube. So if anybody fancies hopping on and having their say on the Benjamin Sesko stuff, let's do that. Before I welcome anybody on, hopefully people join in that time. If you haven't done so already, please leave a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're brand new. That really, really does help. There's over 800 of you live right now, which is mad. So please leave us a like. All of that stuff really, really does help. Subscribe to the channel as well if you're brand spanking new. And if you're listening on Apple, Spotify, all the rest of it, get involved as well. Let's read what some of your comments are saying on this. Errol Graham says, get both. I don't think we're going to be able to get both. Just financially, I don't think it's viable. And I think if we did get both, it would be at the expense of recruiting in some of the other positions that we clearly need to recruit for. So I'm not sure that's the wisest idea. Joe says, I'm angry, wanted Gyökeres, not this Sesko. Ghost says, Berta out if they dare. I mean, this is the guy that the majority of the Arsenal fan base has been calling for the last few months. All of a sudden, Viktor Gyökeres appears to be available, appears on the scene, and now Benjamin Sesko's useless? No, look, I've got a preference. I've made no secret about that. But that doesn't mean that I wouldn't be excited if we brought Benjamin Sesko in. I do think we're kind of in sort of semi-dangerous territory with Benjamin Sesko, because we know that the demands are quite high price-wise. And I think as a result of that, we've got to be a little bit careful around what we spend. But look, if he's the guy, if Arsenal were looking at him going into last summer, contacted RB Leipzig, obviously couldn't get the deal done at that point, and then went back in January, then obviously they like the player. Obviously they think he's a potential answer and a solution. So I'd love to get you guys on. If you're interested, jump in and we'll bring a few of you on at a time. Whatever your opinion is, whether you like the idea, whether you don't, I want to hear from you. So get involved. Let's just pick up a couple more comments while we wait for a couple people to join as well. Lots of you saying that he won't start. Does that mean you rate Kai Havertz? Isn't that what it is? Ivan says, do you think the Sesko signing is influenced by missing out on Isak years ago? High price tag, but a lot of potential. Well, look, I think, with Benjamin Sesko, the thing I will say, and I've kind of touched on it already, but the thing that gives me a bit of encouragement is that this is Arsenal having a very clear strategy in place, right? Because if they've been knocking at this guy's door for a while, they clearly feel that he is the right guy. And, they kept their powder dry in January. We were all very critical about that and frustrated by that. But if it is because they always wanted this guy and they go out and get him, fair play to them, I say. Anyway, right. Should we take some of you guys' thoughts from the live chat? Let's bring in Raphael. Welcome to the stream, mate. How you doing? Where you joining us from, firstly?
I'm from Latin.
How you doing, mate? Not too far.
Not too far at all. How you doing? You okay?
All good, mate. All good. What are your thoughts on this? How are you feeling about the idea of Benjamin Sesko coming in? Now, let's just be clear. It's not done yet. Fabrizio Romano's dropped a bit of a bombshell on us this evening, though, just reporting the fact that Arsenal have opened talks with RB Leipzig regarding his potential signing. Let's have your thoughts on the player and what you think of the news.
To be fair, it was my choice. I would have taken Sesko over Viktor Gyökeres. I do like the numbers of Viktor Gyökeres, but the way that we play, I don't think his numbers are going to translate in our team, unfortunately.
Okay.
I feel like the style of play that we play with a fluid, or we used to play with a fluid front three. And I feel like put a Sesko in that team and we'll see that style of play again. I feel like he gets into the channels, he'll run the channels. I feel like he'll run in behind. He's big, he's powerful, and he'll vacate central areas. And hopefully, fingers crossed, you'll start to see the Sakas and the Martinellis try and take in those spaces. They don't do it now, but hopefully they were doing it when Gabriel Jesus was in the team. And I feel like we'll go back to that sort of style of play with Sesko in the team, opposed to Viktor Gyökeres, because he stays central. He's a central striker. That works in transition teams, teams that play on a transitional football. We don't play that. We're a position-based team, so you need fluidity in the front line, and I feel like that's going to give us more goals.
Yeah, I mean, you make some really, really great points there. I'll tell you one of the things I've been super impressed by whenever I've come across sort of clips and videos and footage of Benjamin Sesko. How big is the guy's leap? It's incredible. The way that guy gets off the ground is madness. It's a madness.
He is. And also, you've got to remember the Premier League defenders are also quite big defenders as well. We need a striker that's going to ruffle them up as well. How many times have we been in big games and you just thought like our striker hasn't really left one on the defense? When you take Kai Havertz out of the team, we lose that physicality up front. We lose the ability of somebody just literally taking the defender's attention. Now, if we have somebody up front that can take the defender's attention, like physically they have to worry about him, they push back, they drop back, and it gives that space for those 10s and the Martin Odegaards to have a little bit more space to play in as well. They can't push up as much. So having somebody who's big, mobile, physical as well in the channels, it will just open up so many areas for our front line. And like when Jesus came in, you'll just see you'll change our world.
Yeah, fingers crossed, mate. Fingers crossed. You sound really excited about it. Let's hope that we get the deal over the line in that case. Raphael, I'm going to let you go, mate, not because of any other reason, just that I want to make sure I get through everybody that's calling in. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll speak to you soon, mate. All the best.
Take care. Bye-bye.
That was a brilliant call from Raphael. Should we bring in Anthony? Anthony, you ready? Are you there, mate? Let's get you in. What do you want to say?
Yeah, I'm here.
You just woken up?
No. I'm good. Yeah, my gut feeling was always that we was going to get Sesko. He's not my first choice, to be quite honest. I said it the other day. Only logical sense is that because the style of how we play, Arteta's not going to change that. So obviously Sesko is the logical choice. It's the left wing that I'm more concerned about, because there's no point in bringing in Sesko and we're not addressing that left-hand side. That left-hand side is atrocious. Martinelli, Trossard. If we're signing up then to a new contract, yeah, I don't see how we're getting a left winger in. We're just gonna have this. We're gonna have the same problems like we did last year. You could, like I said, you bring in a either striker. That's not going to do nothing.
Do you not think though, mate? Do you not think though that we need to kind of hold fire a little bit here in the judgment on what the team? Because I agree with you that we need to upgrade on the left wing. I think that's clear. But signing Sesko doesn't mean that we're not going to do that. And so my view will always be glass half full, right? There's no point in being frustrated about what you think might happen on the left-hand side until that time comes where we know that that's going to be the case. They might go, we might wake up tomorrow morning and there'll be a Fabrizio Romano link or a David Ornstein link to a top winger, and then it will be wasted energy.
Look, the only top winger that I want at this football club is Rodrigo. If you're not getting me that, this signing's underwhelming. I'm sorry to say, but this signing's underwhelming. You need to get a left winger going forward. You cannot have the same team as Sesko and thinking he's gonna do the business. Like I said, Havertz is going to be starting. You'll give Sesko the minutes. If Sesko replaces him, great. But if you're not getting that left-hand side sorted, because let's be honest, Saka's been woeful last season, in terms of goal contributions. So is Martinelli, so has Trossard. If we don't get that left signing done as soon as possible, like people are throwing out Gittins, Rafael Leao, all them signings that don't really excite me. Dan or Rodrigo would excite me to say, okay, we brought in Sesko, we got a Rodrigo in, and that may look a bit different, but this signing alone and the outlay, which obviously the Daily Telegraph, which Charles Watts, when I watched his program, he said the guy who actually reported it, he's respectable when it comes to transfer, so he knows what he's talking about. So if it is 93 outlay that RB Leipzig want, I don't know.
I don't think it is. I don't think it is, because he has a release clause that we know to be less than that. So why would you pay 93 million when you don't need to?
Well, they can
legally, you can trigger that release clause and get him for whatever it is, which is rumored to be 80 million euros, which is about 67.5 million pound. How do you get from 67.5 million pound up to 93? I believe that what he's done, and I haven't read that article in full because it's behind a paywall, but what I think he's done is he's gone, right, this is the salary that he's going to get. And over 5 years, I'm going to add that all up, and then I'm going to put it in with the release clause, and I'm going to come up with this big thing. And to be fair to Mike McGrath, by the way, whose piece that was, he didn't headline it like that. Whoever posted it on social media did. So I don't want it to come across like I'm having a go at him, because I'm not. But it's just one of those things that's very reactionary. Anthony, I'm just going to let you go, bro, just so I can bring a few other people on as well. But thanks for joining me, man. All the best. Cheers, pal. Let's bring in Grady. Are you there, mate?
You're right, Harry. Just want to say, very nice being on the show. Long time fan.
Brilliant, mate. Thank you.
I think just to start off with some of the comments I've seen in the chat, the Arteta sexuals comment. Sorry if that's not fine to say. It's a bit ridiculous. I don't agree with Sesko being the signing that we make, but to pin this on Arteta, clearly Berta's seen something and gone, look, this is. You've seen something here. We don't see it. Maybe I'm wrong in saying that Gyökeres is a better option. Obviously, it's a personal opinion.
Yeah.
As Anthony said, we need a world-class left winger. We need a better left. Like, I love Miles. I don't think he should start left back. He should be integrated into the midfield. We need that overlapping talent that we had in Xhaka when he played in Declan's role, where he popped up in that pocket between the striker and the left winger to create more chances. If we don't get a left back who can do that, or something other, I'm assuming Declan will still be the starting left 8 because of Zubimendi signing. We need a left back who can fill those gaps, and Miles needs to be integrated elsewhere. I love him. He's a brilliant player. but obviously we need to think about winning right now.
Yeah, I agree with that, mate. I agree with the fact that we need to think about winning. I agree with what you're saying about Miles Lewis-Skelly. I quite like the idea of him, pushing into that midfield, or at least being considered as a midfield option at the very least.
Yeah.
I think that's important that happens. The thing with the whole Sesko thing is, it's interesting, isn't it? Because it feels like what I'm finding myself doing is kind of questioning some of the stories that we've read and heard since Andrea Berta's come in, right? Because everybody sort of said, well, he's going to come in and he's going to completely rip up the plans and it's all going to be his way or the highway. And he's really going to take a hold of things and do things his way. And that all kind of started with the whole Gyökeres over Sesko thing, right?
Yeah.
Now, I've got my preference as well. My preference is not by a lot, but it is Viktor Gyökeres for the reasons I've explained. I won't go over it again. But it's interesting that people were sort of peddling the narrative of Berta's coming in and he's going to completely, change and reinvent our plans. Yet we're on course to sign Martin Zubimendi, who was teed up basically by Edu. And now it looks like we are moving for Benjamin Sesko, a player that, again, we know for a fact was on Arsenal's radar prior to Andrea Berta's arrival. So has he come in and had conversations with Mikel and had conversations with the club? And is it a case of him going, I agree with you guys, so let's move forward with this? It feels like at the very least, I can't say that these are deals that he is sort of behind and leading the charge on, but at the very least, he seems to agree with the plans that were already in place, right? Is that not fair to say?
Yeah, I think that's very fair. I think, obviously, I've seen people say Berta's becoming that yes man, but if you look at his tenure, he's never been a yes man for Diego Simeone. What makes people think that Diego Simeone? I could be wrong here. I think he won a few trophies with Atletico Madrid. I love Arteta. Obviously, he's won a trophy with us, but he doesn't have the same pedigree as Simeone does. So why do people think Berta's just going to suddenly say, I'm going to be a yes man for this particular manager? And it's clear in some of the reports that I've seen, obviously, I'm not saying these are true, could be completely wrong. Allegedly, Berta was in Germany a few nights ago discussing the sale of Martin Odegaard, which I'm assuming isn't a thing that Arteta would like. And personally, I would hate, because I know he's had a bad season, but that's our captain, whether people like to look at him that way or not. And obviously, it was to fund a higher deal, but it got rejected by Bayern Munich, was the alleged club, I'm pretty sure. But
I personally don't believe that story.
Me neither. But obviously, if it is a true story, that isn't, to me, that looks like it's not a yes man situation. It's this is what I think will work.
Yeah.
This is my mentality. And clearly, like I said, he's seen something in Sesko that Arteta's convinced him of. And my biggest pullback on the Sesko signing is, I had this argument with an Arsenal fan on Twitter the other day.
You don't want to do that, mate. You don't want to get involved in arguments on Twitter.
Always gets a bit too riled up. Usually it's with the other fans, but it was when the Sesko deal was initially said to be progressing.
Right.
I complained. I said, look, allegedly we have 350 million as a war chest. We don't know that that's true, but we definitely, in my opinion, are not getting more than that. Sesko at 90 to 100 million, that's almost 33% of the budget, whereas Gyökeres is almost 16.5%. Yes, he's playing in a lesser league, but we've seen him play against Premier League teams. Yeah, that's not consistent enough, but then people say he won't get the space to do what he does. That chance that Martinelli had against Ramsdale at Southampton, it's a brilliant counter-attacking chance. And as The Athletic have reported, over the past 6 seasons, counter-attacking has become one of the main ways that clubs are making their chances, scoring their goals.
Yeah.
Gyökeres in that situation, I believe he puts that away, because that is a clear chance that he gets in over in Portugal.
Yeah.
Sesko, I don't believe that he's even in that position. I believe he's kind of... Kai Havertz got stick for this, and I disagree. at the time because that was what it called for. But when he said about, I want to be a better defender, as a striker, obviously people said that's ridiculous. I think that's the kind of thing that Sesko will be doing at, what is it, 6'5", great leap. We're pinned back. We're not going to be putting Martinelli back in where Havertz would be in, putting Sesko up top. We're going to have Sesko back there still.
Yeah.
Gyökeres, on the other hand, he's a little bit taller, but he gets into the spaces. He'll work it around. He brings the players in around him. I've personally not seen a lot of Sesko.
Yeah, it's a hard one with Sesko because I think that the sample size in terms of his career is obviously smaller. Grady, I'm going to just bring in a couple more people, mate, just so I can make sure that I get to everybody that's currently waiting at the moment. I'm going to close the lines because otherwise my kids are going to go to bed at 11 o'clock. So I'm gonna move on. But Grady, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having me, man.
No problem.
Have a good day.
You too, mate. All the best. Right. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to bring you guys in together. That way we make sure that we get everybody on. Let's bring in Jordan. Jordan, how you doing, mate? Where are you joining us from?
How you doing? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, all good, mate. Where are you joining us from?
Coming from Washington, D.C.
Brilliant stuff. Hold that thought. Don't go anywhere. Let's bring in Elliot as well. Elliot, how you doing, mate? Welcome.
Hey, Harry, how are you?
What's up, Elliot? How you doing, man?
How you doing, man?
Just remind me where you're joining us from as well. Let's get the locations in.
Coming from the 6, Toronto.
Brilliant stuff.
Nice.
Do you know what? Let's bring in Jamie as well. Jamie, are you there?
Yeah, we're there.
How you doing, mate? Where are you joining us from?
Good. Scotland.
Lovely. We've got a nice range, a nice variety. Okay, let's start with you, Jordan. Let's get your thoughts on tonight's story. Benjamin Sesko. The talks have begun, apparently.
Yeah, and I'll be quick here. First off, hey everybody, thanks, Harry. You do a great job. I appreciate your opinions and everything. But I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little agitated. I think Sesko would have been a great signing if we were, a couple, maybe about 4 or 5 years ago when we were competing, we were getting 5th, 8th place and just competing for Champions League spots. But I want a gunman, right? And we lost the league last year because we didn't have a striker. And even 2 years ago, right? Again, we lost the league because we didn't have that gunman up front. And I just think that Gyökeres, yes, I understand it's the Portuguese league, but let's not forget this man did do it in the championship as well. That's a great league. And I don't know, because I mean, again, like for me, I'm not sitting here. I think Arteta has done a great job, and I don't want to bring Arteta, but this is the year. He's got to win a trophy. To me, in my opinion, if he does not win a trophy this year, this upcoming year, next year, to me, he has to go. And I don't think that that's outrageous. It's been 5 years. He hasn't made a final, and it's just been, I don't know. I wasn't happy with this season. I'm not gonna lie, and I'm just a little agitated. I'm tired of not winning anything. This is Arsenal. And the things that we were getting agitated with Wenger about. Wenger did in those last 5 years when everybody was agitated. Didn't he get 3 FA Cups in those last 5? So, and I think that we can get over the line if we need a striker. Of course, we need some other positions, but I want that striker. I also want that left winger. I want a backup 10 as well. But we got to get that striker. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that Sesko can't do it, but I'm more confident in Gyökeres.
I think for me, mate, I think I understand why people are a little bit concerned about whether Sesko can do it, right? Because if we did a pod a few months ago where we broke down the numbers, the underlying numbers, and I think we did a comparison of Isak, Sesko, Gyökeres, and I think the other player that we put in there was Hugo Ekitike. And we sort of broke it down. And my concern at the time, and my concern has continued to be, that I'm not sure that Benjamin Sesko is involved enough in the game outside of scoring goals. And also his goal scoring numbers, they're okay, but they're not Viktor Gyökeres goal scoring.
Right. He's got 13. He's got 13 goals, right, in the Bundesliga, correct?
Yeah, something like that. So I get it, right? I get the reservation. The only thing I'm struggling with a little bit, and this is not coming back at you. This is something that I've had quite a bit today because I put something out where I sort of questioned some of Thierry Henry's comments the other day when he was talking about trophies. You mentioned that Wenger team. and the fact that they got trophies. They won those FA Cups.
Sure.
That Wenger team was not better than this team. The Manchester United team that Thierry Henry referenced is not better than this Arsenal team. Trophies are important, and they're the outcome that we all strive for. But if we are saying that Manchester United are crap, yet they have won trophies in the last few seasons, if we're saying that Arsene Wenger team was miles off of winning the Premier League, but they won trophies in those seasons, that makes it apparently clear that, yes, trophies are great, but they can paper over cracks. And in the bigger picture, we are better now than we were then. So, the thing about, Arteta, and I don't want to go back to Arteta because I want it to be about Sesko, but it's like, it feels like there's a lot of pressure going into this season, into the new season, because of the lack of trophies. But there's also a pressure on the striker because we've wanted this striker for 3, 4, 5 years now.
Right.
And so that means whoever it is has to be perfect. And we're just not sure, are we, on
No,
Sesko?
right. I mean, and this is the last thing, regardless of how people feel about Aubameyang, let's be honest. We haven't had a 20-goal striker since Aubameyang. Let's keep it a buck here, right? Yeah. And I mean, Aubameyang's been gone for what? It's been 4 years now, right? So, I mean, I don't know. That's just my opinion on it, but I'd like to hear
great stuff,
others.
mate. Appreciate it, mate. Thank you for joining us as well. Let me just read out a couple of quick super chats before I move on to get Elliot's thoughts as well. Tevin says, window hasn't even opened and 1, maybe 2 signings if Sesko goes through, and our fans are upset. Like you, I feel Gyökeres or Sesko would be great signings. Wayne says, and thank you for your very kind super chat as well, Sesko overperforms his XG by 5.89 and has a conversion rate of 29%, where Osimhen has a conversion rate of 21%. So obviously he takes those chances when they come along, clearly based on those stats that you've just provided there. But is he involved enough? That would be my big question. Elliot, welcome to the show, mate. What have you got to say on the whole Benjamin Sesko thing?
Well, Benjamin Sesko is a man for the future. He's not exactly for the here and now. We need to win now. And I'm happy with the decision that Arsenal are potentially going through. No, I'd much rather Gyökeres. He's the hottest striker in Europe at the moment. And he's backing goals for fun, for club and country. And I think he takes us up a level. Sesko is a man who's here for the next 2 to 3 years. When he hits and matures, a lot of people are saying he'll be one of the best strikers in the world. That's fine. That's fine and dandy, but we need to win now. And I think Gyökeres is going to be the guy to bring us to a win now mode. Let me say this. If it comes down to it and we bring in Sesko, we need to bring in a winger of top quality, and that means a Rodrigo. That goes without saying. If we bring in a Gyökeres right now, it would be a want to bring in a top winger because, again, we're going to have to wait patiently for the likes of Sesko. But I think Arsenal Football Club are afraid of losing the next Isak. And that's the reason why they're going hard on Sesko now, because they see him as the next one. And they don't want to be gun shy this time around, even though and they want to learn from their mistakes. And they feel that Sesko is the number one prospect right now, and they want to get him now. But again, is it going to be a win now prospect? I don't think so. I don't know. I see him scoring 10 to 15 goals next year. That's it. I don't see him scoring more than that. I don't see him scoring 20 goals. When with Gyökeres, I see him scoring 20. I really do. I see him being the difference between us vying for the Champions League and winning it. And I think adding Rodrigo to that, I think we'll be one of the favorites to win the Champions League. So, I'm a bit perturbed at the fact that they're still pursuing Sesko, but clearly this is Arteta's guy. They're pursuing it. They've been scouting him for months and years. And they don't want to lose the next Isak.
It's interesting because it does feel like this is a signing, as we've already been touching on, with the future in mind more than anything else. And, we all want the club to succeed now. We want the club to win now. But let me just throw this back at you and let me know your thoughts on this. For a while now, for a good few years, I've been saying that for me, when it comes to this Arsenal side, it is a side that is built to share the goals. it isn't a side that is built to, to funnel your play through one particular player and to be overly reliant on any one individual. I always said that I felt like Sesko was a possibility because in Mikel Arteta's mind, and it might not be what we all believe, and it might, in fact, I'm certain it's not what most people believe, but I think he looks at it and goes, I've got Kai Havertz there. And between the two of them, they can share the role. They can share the burden. They can share the responsibility. Because Kai Havertz was on course for a 20-25 goal season pre the injuries. In all comps I'm talking about, not just in the Premier League. But I think Arteta's viewpoint here is this guy could be the next big thing. I don't need him to be the only centre forward and the only one I can rely on over the course of next season. I've got Kai there as well. Now, you or I might not think that's the right way to go, but it feels to me like that's Mikel Arteta's thinking is if I get the better prospect, that's okay because I've got Kai Havertz there who can share that role and share that responsibility with him. What do you think of that?
I think Kai Havertz starts next year. But, making an orange bomb, Kai Havertz is going to be our starting striker next year, and they're going to blood in Sesko to bring him into the role slowly but surely. And then by maybe middle of next year, by December, by January, February, he'll be the number one guy. I think that Arteta still believes in Havertz. I think he still sees him as his striker. I think he still has a deal with Havertz saying that you'll be my number one guy going to next year, and you'll battle with Sesko for the top spot. And listen, I shake my head at the prospect of things, but clearly Arteta, still believes in Havertz and still believes that Sesko will be, one of the best strikers in the world going forward. But again, we need to win now, and I don't think this is the right move for a win now team.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
We got to win something, man. And I just don't think I just don't think Sesko and Havertz that's
Is
going to
enough.
do it. It's enough. It's not for me,
Well,
in my opinion.
Yeah, fair enough. Let's bring Jamie in. Jamie's been waiting really patiently there. And don't worry, everybody else that is on the list backstage, I will get you on, I promise. Jamie, let's get your thoughts, mate, on this news that has broken this evening.
Yeah, Sesko. I think Sesko's a good player to have, but it depends on the winger you get. I think if you get Sesko, you've got to have a winger who comes short and creates, just like Saka does on the left side. Because you need someone on the left-hand side crossing the ball in on both sides to create more balance and more space for all three attackers. Because as you said, Sesko doesn't come short and create, he stays up the top. So you need someone on the left-hand side that's going to come short and create and then running behind as well, kind of like a quicker version of Trossard. But if you get Gyökeres, I think you could get someone who's kind of like a left wing, but as a striker, because obviously Gyökeres goes on the left-hand side. And then you could get the winger to kind of run in behind. But I think Sesko, it just depends on the winger you get, I think. I think Sesko can be a good player, but you have to get a top winger and an experienced one at that.
Yeah, I think he will get a winger. I really do. I think that's imperative. The worry that I'm imagining people have right now is that with Benjamin Sesko probably costing a little bit more than Viktor Gyökeres, and certainly if you go by some of the reports we read earlier on Thursday, they're probably fearing that winger is going to be Leroy Sané on a free transfer.
Yeah,
and I think it's funny, right? When you get into transfer windows, stories that have no link and no connection end up being put together in the minds of supporters. So you might think, well, if we're overpaying for the centre forward, that means we're going to cheap out on the left winger. And that just creates an extra layer and an extra kind of level, I think, of anxiety and fear. And, Leroy Sané's been talked about. I mean, I'm not on board with that. I was very clear on that earlier today. That would be quite underwhelming, wouldn't it, Jamie?
Yeah, I think it's just one of them. We've been there before. I think, you look at other teams, Liverpool, they're getting the new player. They're getting a new player that's coming out. Sané's not. He's just near the end. And we've had Sterling. Gabriel Jesus was kind of similar from City as well. And we just had that before and we could see where it could go. And I just don't think he would be durable now in the Premier League to play that many games and in the cups. So I don't think Sané is a good player to go for. I personally think it was just an agent trying to get a better contract at Bayern, because it's just, that sort of timing. So I just don't really see that happening. Hopefully not. But I think we definitely need a top winger. I was looking at like maybe a Lookman. I mean, people are unsure about that, but he's got experience and he knows how to put the ball in the back of the net.
Indeed.
I was thinking a lot about actually, when I was thinking a lot about nostalgia and like, Alexis Sanchez, and I was just trying to think, is there anyone on the market that's like Alexis Sanchez? And, football's changed so much that makes you think there's not really many players like that anymore.
Yeah.
Because Arsenal play too robotically, I think, and they need someone who's a bit more individual. And I think Arteta needs to let go of that a little bit.
Yeah.
That over-coaching, robotic style of play. And
I certainly agree with that.
Yeah. An X factor is needed.
I think Rodrigo is that guy. He is the Alexis Sanchez. If you're looking for an Alexis Sanchez type player, Rodrigo's that guy. He's just he's a wild, free stallion with just so much ingenuity, pace, lack of backlift. He is just a magical player. And listen, if we bring in Sesko, I pray that we bring in Rodrigo.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed, guys. I'm going to let you three go just so I can get through all the rest of the callers. Thank you so much for joining me.
Cheers.
All the best. Really appreciate you coming on. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, mate.
Right.
Brilliant stuff. Plenty of callers. We've got a fair few more to get through before we finish up the stream. So let's move on. Let's bring in Kai. Kai, how you doing? Kai, you there? Hello. Kai, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, got you now, mate. How you doing?
Okay,
Where you calling us from?
No, I'm calling from South London, bro.
Brilliant stuff, mate. Whereabouts in South London?
Croydon.
Croydon. I'm a Thornton Heath boy, man. So good to hear that. Good to hear that. Yeah, I was born in Thornton Heath. Yeah.
Oh, I'm a Thornton Heath boy as well, so we love to hear it.
Brilliant. Let me just bring in a couple more people as well. Let's bring in Alp. Alp, are you there? Can you hear us?
Hi. Hello. Yeah, I can hear you.
Where are you joining us from, mate?
Dubai, North Londoner, living in Dubai.
Brilliant stuff. Let's bring in Wilson as well. Wilson, where are you joining us from, mate?
Oxbridge, which is in West London.
Brilliant stuff. We got the London massive on at the moment. Let's start with you, Kai. Let's get your thoughts on tonight's news.
Do you know what it is, bro? I was gonna say to you as well, Harry. Yeah, too many people in the comments, I believe, have never seen Sesko play 90 minutes more than 4 or 5 times, but I have the most to say about him. It's kind of confusing to me. For me as a football man, and I think you're quite a person that I follow a lot, and I watch a lot of the stuff, like to have comments and opinions on players, not that you can't, but watch the player first. And I feel like I've watched Sesko a lot of times. And I actually remember seeing Sesko play in the Champions League against Sporting Lisbon, and he not outshined him, but when I looked at it after the game, I thought, do you know what? Sesko looks like the more of the player that has a bit more of a profile that I think Arsenal suit. And then watching Sesko against Bayern Munich, he scored some outrageous goals. I don't know if any of you saw that. Again, that was another 90-minute game that I saw, and I thought, do you know what? The boy looks good. And the Champions League stage, he looked okay, but RB Leipzig didn't do well in the Champions League, so it kind of dimmed the light on him a little bit. Whereas I feel like if he was at Arsenal or whatever, he would do much better. Looking at the games against PSG and Real Madrid, Saka put in some crazy crosses. Sesko scores a couple of those, but we don't have anyone like that. So for me, I do think Sesko is a player that a lot of Arsenal fans should be happy with, innit? Because he's young, he's got a good profile, and he kind of reminds me of a bit of a Lewandowski. He's got that raw ability to kind of get a ball and to hit a dead ball shot, a knuckle ball shot. He's crazy finishing, and he's only 21. So, and he did well in the Euros as well. So I can't complain, not at all, man.
Yeah, and I think, you know what? I think I was talking about this on the podcast that we did earlier today when we were talking about the Thierry Henry comments, right?
Yeah.
Not everything has to be so binary, man. Like, I like Gyökeres. I would have picked personally Gyökeres, but that doesn't mean that I think Sesko's shit. Do you see what I mean? Like, you can have an opinion in between, but unfortunately, the world we live in and the climate that we live in, it's as if that's not allowed. Like, just because you wanted Gyökeres, like I do, it doesn't mean that you should write off Benjamin Sesko and not give the guy a chance. He could well come in and surprise and shock everybody. And then we'll all be eating humble pie, won't we? Those of us that had a different preference. Go on.
Yeah, no, Javi, of course. I was just gonna say, but again, it comes down to actually watching the players. So again, how many Arsenal fans that have the most to say about these guys actually watch Bundesliga and watch Sesko week in and week out? I've watched Sesko week in and week out, and he's a good player, and he's not one of the most talked about strikers in Europe at his age for no reason. Clearly, he must be doing something good. Again, against Bayern Munich, against Dortmund, against the top teams in the Bundesliga, he performs. So that means some weird context, he could come to the Premier League, and against the top teams, he could do well because you've seen him do it in the Bundesliga. Now, people talk about Nkunku and look what happened to somebody else that come from the Bundesliga, but look what happened with Aubameyang.
Yeah.
look what happened with Konate. There's a few good players that come from the Bundesliga and do well. It's just about picking the right ones. It's not that, because you're playing in the Bundesliga, look what happened to this guy over here because he's a flop. Well, no, not really, not at all. And again, I just think Sesko suits the profile that Arsenal are looking for, and Arteta knows what he's doing. And I think for a lot of seasons now, like anyone who he's brought, even Kai Havertz to an extent, he's improved. He's improved quite a bit. So again, like, I wouldn't write off anyone just yet. I would give him a chance, and yeah, let him see what he can do, really.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. Kai, that was a fantastic call, mate. Thank you very, very much.
No, thank you, bro.
Let's bring in Alp. Alp, what you got to say on it, mate? What do you think?
Hi, Harry. Thanks for taking me online. Basically, I've got a different approach maybe to all of this. I feel that having the conversation of which striker is kind of irrelevant. I feel that we should focus more on like Arteta's tactics and what he's going to do, because I feel that you could bring in the right striker, or you feel that is the right striker, but if we've not changed our tactics, that we're not going to be successful. I feel that it wasn't the fact that we just have one piece missing and then that's it. It's all euphoria after we get that striker and it's all done and dusted. I feel that we need to change our approach in the games that we take. If you personally ask me, I'm gonna like pick a different striker that's not listed. It would be Alvarez for me.
Me too. That's my
Personally,
number one.
because like it's tried and tested, and what the numbers they're speaking about for Šeško at the moment, I'd rather spend that on Alvarez. At least it's tried and tested in the Premier League. That's one thing. The other thing I feel, rather than a striker, I feel that the left wing is a major issue for Arsenal. For us, basically, I feel the left wing, if we can get some goals from there, it will complete everything a lot more. And sorry, I've got another point. So, like, if we look at, for example, Haaland, he came from German league, right?
Yeah.
We can look at other strikers. Ultimately, if we're looking at a striker, there's only one data point that you're looking at. How many goals have they scored? And if you were to push me to give you an answer out of the two, I would go for Gyökeres, because the only data point is how many goals has he scored, and that's what they judged Haaland on when he came to the before he came to the Premier League.
Yeah, no, all great points, mate. All great points. Let's bring in Wilson as well, mate. You've been nodding a lot when we've been listening to people speak. You've been shaking your head at times as well. I'm waiting for you to come in with a serious opinion here. Go on, what you got to say?
Oh yeah, there's a reason for that. I think personally, I feel like Sesko is for the future. Personally, don't go. I've watched Sesko a couple times in the Champions League. I'm not saying he's a bad player, but I feel like with this squad of players right now, I feel like we need a striker who can, not just a striker, but a top class left winger, can take us like to the next level. And I'm talking about Gyökeres. The guy is proven. He's tall. He's a proper goal scorer. He's a proper goal scorer. On the other hand, if we're gonna get Sesko, we need to get like a top class left-sided winger, like a Rodrigo, for an example. The guy knows how to play. He's got the trickery, the speed. He's proven. He scores the goals. The thing with Sesko is that, don't get me wrong, he's not a bad player. I'm not saying, oh, he's crap. No, I'm not saying he's a bad bad player. I just feel like he's for the future right now. But with these squad of players right now, we need like top quality players, particularly in the attacking line. He can take us to the next level, and I feel like Gyökeres fits the bill completely, in my opinion.
Yeah, listen, I like Viktor Gyökeres probably slightly more than I like Benjamin Sesko in their current forms, right? But I think as we keep discussing, sorry, my throat went there. It feels like we're looking at Benjamin Sesko with a view to what he can develop into, and if he can come in and supplement our forward line and give us what we need right now, then that is fine, and let's hope it works out. Go on.
Oh, Harry, I've got one other thing, because
Yep.
the thing with Sesko, he's going to cost more than Gyökeres. I mean, hearing rumours like past couple of days, he could cost like 80 to 90 million pounds. But when it comes to Gyökeres, who costs way less.
I don't think, for what it's worth, I don't think Arsenal pay anything near £90 million
No way.
for Benjamin Sesko. Nowhere near it. I think that people are convoluting the figures between pounds and euros, which makes a big difference. But also on top of that, as I've said already, I think that some of those figures have been inflated and have been inclusive of salary over the contract length, which, yeah, okay, it does mean that that's a cost to you over a long period of time. But why, when it's Arsenal, do we roll it all into one and try and sensationalize the amount of money that's being spent? And when it's everybody else, we go, oh, no, well, that's the transfer fee, and we keep the wages thing completely separate. But anyway, Wilson, thank you very much, mate. Thank you to Alp. Thank you to Kai. I'm moving on quicker than I normally would, guys, just because I want to make sure I get through everybody
Thanks, Harry. Thank
that
you.
is with us.
Okay,
Thank
thanks,
you, guys.
Harry.
Cheers,
Thanks,
guys.
Harry.
I'll speak to you all soon. Thank you. Right, let's bring in our last three callers on the night. Let's bring in Andrew. Andrew, how you doing, mate? Where you joining us from?
I'm fine. I'm joining from Sweden, actually.
Sweden. Brilliant. What time is it in Sweden right now?
It's 9:20.
Oh, it's only 1 hour difference. Okay, lovely.
Yeah.
Brilliant. All right, let's bring in Clem as well. Clem, where are you joining us from?
Evening, Harry. I'm calling from Strasbourg in France, but I am from London originally.
Oh, brilliant stuff. Look at that. We're going international tonight. We've gone to the States, we've gone to Sweden, we've gone to France. Brilliant stuff. Let's bring in Isaac as well. Isaac, where are you joining us from, mate?
Hi, man. I'm calling from Dubai. I'm originally from London.
Brilliant stuff. Londoners all over the world. Let's start with Andrew. Let's get your take, Andrew, on this news. Viktor Gyökeres appears to be second choice at the moment. It looks like we're moving for Benjamin Sesko. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it quite baffles me, actually,
Okay.
that we are getting Sesko, actually, because when you look at it, I think, or I know of Gyökeres pretty well because I'm from Sweden, and he used to play for, or his academy club was Brommapojkarna, what we call BP here in Sweden, and one of the best academies in Sweden that you actually go to, and Kulusevski is from there, actually. And they play a playing style of controlling. They actually play almost the same playing style as Man City and Arsenal. And they have been playing that for a long, long time. So people say to me that Gyökeres is a transitional player. We also forget that Gyökeres used to play for Brighton. He used to also play for Coventry. And he played for, I think, one more team before moving to Sporting. And then if you look at it, Brighton is a team where you play controlling football. So it also baffles me that people are saying that if Gyökeres come to this club, he wouldn't be able to play the same style, or he wouldn't. His playing style would decrease. So, that is not good, because I have seen Gyökeres play a lot of times, and the way he plays, for me, is he can actually, and he has the control and the skills to play in our system. And for me also, he's a proven goal scorer. That's the most important. As Arsenal right now, we need someone that can score in the final third, and also can score in the moment, like a moments player. I don't think that Sesko is going to be or become right now a moments player. We need a moments player. For example, I looked at the opportunity we had against PSG, and this opportunity that Saka had. I think a moments player right there in that moment will be calm and just touch the ball into the net instead of swinging the ball meters above the goal. that is the kind of player we need, and I don't think Sesko is that player right for right now. Maybe in the future, but not now.
Yeah, all valid points, mate, and a little bit of interesting insight there on Viktor Gyökeres and his kind of football upbringing as well. So thank you very much for that. Let's bring in Clem. What do you want to say on the news, mate? How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, no, I think. Look, listen, I think it is good news, but I'm on the same point of view as you, Harry. Like, I prefer Alvarez, Gyökeres, but I think Sesko will suit Arsenal's style play when it comes to corners, laying off the ball, and he is a good dribbler, to be fair. So I think, look, all three of them I think are good signings, full stop. And I kind of wanted to brush up on what you're actually saying on the first caller, which is, even if Arteta didn't win something next year, I wouldn't get rid of him. Like, the squad is insane. We haven't seen this kind of exciting football in a long time. And, obviously, I mean, he is lucky in the sense that he's been given this amount of time to keep on playing. But,
yeah,
we're excited by the style of football that's actually happening. I do agree that we need to get another left wing as well, instead of Trossard. But I have to say, I'm slightly more concerned about the right to a certain extent, just because, like, I mean, I think Nwaneri was great on the wing when he came in, but when Saka was out, Nwaneri would probably be a better sub for Martin Odegaard down the middle. And I thought we kind of lacked that actual winger on the right side. And if Saka's out, then I think that could be one of our weaker positions as well. But overall, like, I think we should really be hyped about what's happening. I mean, obviously, it was a disappointing season in the Premier League this year in terms of our style of play, and we're just not as up for it as the previous season. But then, in the Champions League, we absolutely smashed it this year. I mean, it was probably squad depth that was the issue, and when you look at our bench and players coming on, it was, I mean, there was a lot of injuries. If our bench is full, we've got plenty of defenders there as a backup, and it was more up front where we were slightly lacking on that front. But that's exactly what they're looking to reinforce this summer. So overall, like, look, I think we should just be content with what we have, and up the Arsenal, really.
Yeah, I love that bit at the end. I love that. Fantastic.
Can I
No,
just say
but
something? Can I just
yeah,
say something?
go ahead, mate. Go ahead.
On Berta and Sesko.
Yeah.
I also, I'm also from Denmark, so I was in the what's it called, the European Cup when they
Yeah.
played. I looked at them both when Denmark and Slovakia played against each other, because Sesko played for it. And that game, I said I will look at him really closely and see what the hype is about. He was always driving through the channels, but one thing I realized that he missed a lot of chances, because this European Cup, Denmark wasn't that good, so we also let in a lot of chances, which made us a little bit easier to break down. And I looked at Sesko and I said, bring me something at least. I'm a Denmark fan, but at least make me a little bit shocked. And through that game, he didn't. He didn't. And I have looked at some games. Let me just say, I have not looked at every game that Sesko played. But to be fair, I've looked at some games, and it doesn't bring me the spark like Gyökeres does. Because now, so I've looked at both of them a lot. I think that for me, Gyökeres brings the spark. And also, sorry to say about, sorry taking your time, but Berta also, that he really wanted Gyökeres. For me, it also feels like a problem that maybe Arteta is starting to overthrow him. I don't know if you agree.
I don't know about that, because I don't want to speculate over that, because I don't know what the dynamic is like. And as we touched on a little bit earlier in the show, I'd imagine that if Andrea Berta was in opposition to the plans that were clearly already in place, because we know that Arsenal tried for Sesko in the last couple of windows, then I think he's big enough and ugly enough to have been able to go, well, no, I don't want that. Let's do something different. The fact that he is, seemingly been going along with these things means to me that he agrees. I think that's probably the more likely scenario than it is a case of, the two of them sort of falling out or anything. I do want to come over to you, Isaac. What do you think about this? Because I got to be honest, mate. I'm a little bit surprised because when I started the stream tonight, considering there's been so much talk about Arsenal getting in this striker, big money striker, we've been talking about it for, it feels like 2-3 years now. I thought there'd be a hell of a lot more excitement. The majority of our callers are not that excited, and I'm a little bit surprised by that. Are you going to give us some excitement, or are you singing from the same hymn sheet?
Man, look, it's a bit of a mixed feeling because look, I was watching Arsenal living in New Zealand, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., waiting for a goal to go in, waiting for us to score, waiting for us to win something, and we grabbed some FA Cups here and there. But then I think Sesko's a good player, and I'm hoping that they're sort of saying we're getting two. I'll be selfish and say, look, get me both of them, and let something happen. Because look, when Man City got to a point, Pep destroyed his plans on paper and said, bring me a Haaland. I need somebody that can occupy a Van Dijk. I need somebody that can occupy these big defenders in the Premier League and just put the ball in the back of the net. That's it. Just get me goals. And you can see when Haaland came in, you can see we suffered for it, having Haaland come into the Premier League. If Haaland wasn't in the Premier League in the last couple of seasons, we'll probably have one of the trophies. But he decided to bring in this big man who comes in, drags players along with him, and just wins goal and just gets goals in. You can see the same thing happen. I saw that goal by Lukaku the last game for Inter, what's his name for Napoli, and I saw him drag the defenders along to get that goal. That is what I feel we need. We need that player where it's like, look, just get the goal. I mean, we've done everything. We've done the pretty parties. We've done the control. We've passed the ball around. Just get it in the back of the net. And I think we're at that point. And I think the other caller said if Arteta does not win a trophy next season, he'll still keep him. I think it'll be very, very difficult to justify keeping Arteta for another year because we can't sort of sit in second place and be an almost a nearly team. And I think if I was in his shoes, I would do what my mentor did and said, look, let me get me a player that's just going to come in and put the ball in the back of the net. I don't care how he does it. Let's get to January and say Gyökeres has got 25 goals. Great. I mean, I don't care for who else scores, who else. Just get that top level striker that's going to come in and just bang in the goals. And I think, look, I'm excited about Sesko. I love what he does. I love his build. I love his aerial ability. He's young. He's dynamic. He's quick. But I think he just fits too much in our mold. And if you look at the past 2 seasons, if we keep doing the same thing again, I think we'll get to those games where nothing's happening. We're not. It's like chances are not happening. Everyone's looking around. Who's going to do something? And we just need that one long ball that goes in, striker muscles off the defender like Haaland does, puts the ball in the back of the net. Done. 1-0, Arsenal wins. And I think we've been missing that at key moments in the past couple of seasons. So look, I'm excited, but I think please get me both, or get me both. Yeah.
I think the more likely outcome is that we get one of them and we get a winger. I think that's probably how Arsenal are going to try and strengthen the attack. And it's a hard one, man, because like just to wrap up on the whole Arteta point about next season, I get why people say that, and I get why people feel that way. I don't like going into seasons with like an ultimatum like that, because I think I've seen over the years, and I'm sure you all have as well, that things can change really, really quickly in football. And you look at the season that we've just finished, where yes, Arteta made some errors. Yes, the club were definitely culpable and responsible, in my opinion, for not strengthening when they had an opportunity to and they needed to. But the level of injuries that we sustained, add into that the refereeing decisions, all the rest of it, it just kind of reinforced the point to me that you can look at a manager, and even when he doesn't get to that final destination, even when he doesn't get to that outcome that you're looking for, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's all on him, because football has lots of variables to it. So I'm going to stay open-minded. And if I think he's making mistakes along the way, and that's my opinion, and my view changes on him over the course of the season, I might well be sitting here at the end of next season saying it's time for a change. But I'm not willing to go into the season with this, like, it's win this or bust. Because
we may. I feel the reason why I wasn't like that before. I think when he first came in, first couple of seasons, I was like, look, he's building something here. But I think it has to get to a point where something you have to cross the line. It could be bad luck, right? And if it's bad luck, maybe he would have better luck elsewhere. But I think we need to get to that point where we say it's like Pep being at City. He got
Yeah.
to a point where it's like, look, I need to win the Champions League.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've won the Champions League, so I'm going to do what I need to do to win the Champions League. You know, I don't know if this is a real thing, but I think Salah was saying when Slot came in, saying that reducing his defensive duties and getting him to play more attacking football and not running back as much. And so, look, he will make up with the defense by scoring more goals. I think I heard someone say he said that somewhere. But if that's true, if something like that's true, I think something has to change, right? If it means taking more risks, if it means going more on the offense, if it means losing a bit more control, if it means Saka spending more time up the pitch, if it means getting the striker that's going to come in and banging these goals, because I think what would happen then is, let's say we get to next year, we get injuries again, something happens, then when does that cycle stop? So that means that as a club, we are waiting on the man and not sort of being proactive about I mean, look at the women's team. They changed the manager in the season and they won the Champions League, right? So we have an example around. So I think sometimes it's just luck. Sometimes it could be, look, Klopp, how many times did Klopp fail against Pep? As soon as he steps aside, Slot comes in, gets it across the line, right? So, I mean, that happens, right? I mean, and I think the reason why it looks like an ultimatum is like, look, I think we've gotten to the point where the pressure's building, like Henri was saying, or how tall's the building, right? We've gotten to the point where it's like we've done everything. And now I feel we have the chance to get the striker, go in, get somebody that's, look, I think Arteta should be sitting there saying that, for my pride, my personal pride, I've been in this club for what, 5, 6 years. I mean, the first trophy I won, everyone's saying it was Emery's team. I've gotten rid of most of those players. I've got my squad in here. I want to win. And if I look at Pep, when he got to that season, he says, I need that Champions League. I need that treble. I need to win. Get me a Haaland. Your purpose is just score. I don't need anything else from you. I remember everyone complaining about Haaland has 2 touches in the game, 1 touch in the game. He's not within the
Who
game. He's
cares
not.
if he wins the game?
Who cares
Yeah.
if he wins the game? If he pops in 3 or 4
Yeah.
goals, yay! Let's. So I mean, I don't want to take too much of your time, Harry. I know everyone else is out here, but I think he just needs to do what he needs to do to get it done. And I think if he gets Gyökeres, in my personal opinion, somebody who knows the dimensions of the box with his eyes closed, get that person in and just get the goals in. And I think if we get more goals, we win. That's it. And I mean, that's the purpose of the sport. Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
brilliant
but
stuff.
look,
Go on.
I think it's fair to say that Sesko's still a world-class class player. Like he's not,
I wouldn't
he's still
agree
a
on
very
that.
good
I wouldn't
player.
agree on that about
You-
his Sesko is world class right
no,
now.
no, not world class. He's a class player, not a world class player. He's a class player, I'd say. Like he's a very good player, and like I do think he is a very good signing, and having him in the squad will just make us so much better. Like I really do think he's a good signing.
Yeah,
I don't disagree
just
there. I mean,
Yeah.
sorry, Harry. I don't disagree there. I think he's a great player, but I think we've gotten to the point where we have a lot of great players, right? We need someone whose job is. I mean, I want to get to January and say Gyökeres has not scored enough goals. It's your fault. You've not put the ball in the back of the net. That's why we got you, right? When Haaland came in, no one measured what his touches were, his dribble accuracy, his passes, his pre-assist, assist. No one cared about that. It's how many goals has Haaland scored. And we measured, and in a season where Haaland has not scored a lot of goals, we are pointing at him saying that, hey, mate, you did not deliver, right? And I think we need that sort of responsibility at Arsenal. If I look at Mo Salah at the end of the season and he's got less than 12 goals, Mo Salah had a bad season, right? And I think that's the sort of players that we need now. It's great having that team. Roy Keane says, you can't have a Ronaldo for each position, but you can have the others that contribute to winning a title. I think we have a lot of the others. We have really, I mean, you see Trossard come in and he does well. Martinelli's there. You have all these players within the squad that do well, but I think we need that game changer at the top that says, look, if we get to January and he is not at 15 goals, this is a problem, right? We are holding him. We're not talking about
Yeah,
Arteta. Yeah.
but just on this, just to wrap up, guys, because I really do need to go and put my kids to bed now. But just to kind of wrap up on this, I feel like we are going to overanalyze and over scrutinize any striker signing. You know why? Because A, they're going to cost a hell of a lot of money, and B, because we've all wanted it for so long. It's like if you're single, right? If you're single and you're looking for the woman of your dreams, the longer you are looking for the woman of your dreams, the more you're going to scrutinize every date that you go on, the more you're going to overthink every little detail. It gets in your head. And the striker thing, it's got in our heads. It is living in our heads. It's been there for a long time, and we just want it to be perfect. That's where all of this comes from.
But whose fault is it? That's the thing.
Well, you can look at a number of people and say they're responsible for it. You know, you could say, look, if what I will say about Arsenal is, I think, with the exception of a few occasions where they've pivoted, where they brought in Sterling at the last minute, where they brought in Trossard maybe over Mudryk, generally they've had a plan and they've gone and executed that plan. And the one real thing that I'll sort of hammer home as a positive on this Sesko stuff, even though he's not my first choice, I think he's a good player. I agree with everything that you guys have said. I think he's a great player and I think he will be a good addition. But he wasn't my number one. But what I will say is that for Arsenal, he's clearly been the number one for a while, because they tried last May, they tried in January, and they're trying again now. So I take encouragement and confidence in the fact that they know their stuff here, because they're going back in for this guy for a third successive window, which I think says a lot. Right, guys, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you all so much for joining me. Thank you to Andrew. Thank you to Isaac. Thank you to Clem. Good to see you all. And I'll speak to you all again very soon. I'm sure we'll do another one of these in the not too distant future. Remember, if you haven't done so already, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're brand spanking new, leave us your thoughts in the comments. If you're listening on audio, leave us a review and we'll be back with another episode ASAP. Got a feeling this is going to be quite the summer, so strap yourselves in. You've been listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner. Thank you so much. I'll see you all soon. Goodbye.